Yes, addiction is definitely a real thing in the hobby.
The thing is, you can't really say what it looks like.
I see it over in breaking.
I think like just calling it what it is too, like I think it's much more prevalent.
Vamos a decirlo en Chile. Let's tell it straight up, man.
Welcome to the Hobby Pulse Check. New episodes every Saturday morning. Each week I'll pose one big question. Our guests they'll give their take. In this week's episode, we have addiction. Is addiction a real thing in the hobby, and what does it actually look like?
Okay, so I'm not much in the ripping and breaking world today, so I don't witness it that much. But I'll jump back to when I worked at the card store. This was in the late '90s. I would see people come in, spend their entire budget on wax, open up a whole bunch of stuff, and then trade whatever they got back to the store for a little bit more wax, open the last few packs, and then get nothing, and then basically give it to the store for nothing and walk away with nothing, having spent a whole bunch of money and being there for 5 minutes. And I know that that's a big part of the hobby. It was back then with wax, and today it's like 100 times easier to fall into that cycle with breaking and all these gambling things. So I don't witness it myself that heavily, but absolutely I guarantee you it's there. And a lot of the collections I go by are people who have some sort of addiction, have had some sort of addiction problem, and you can see just based on the way their collection is laid out that every Friday they get their paycheck, they go to the card store, or not the card store, they go spend their money on cards in just sort of a gambly way, and then just pile up cards, and that's just where their money goes. So I from do I see it every day? No, but I guarantee it's there. Yeah,
that was the most important thing for me, is to leave no stone unturned, get better every single day.
Addiction is a real thing in the hobby. Addiction's a real thing in anything, though, if we're being honest. Addiction, though, in the hobby seems more prevalent than it's ever been. And the thing is, you can't really say what it looks like, because you can have addiction due to breaking, but you can have addiction scrolling eBay. You can have addiction buying cards. You can have addiction in basically every facet of the hobby, just like anything else with video, like gaming or gambling or whatever you want to say. But it does feel like with the way that things are rolling with repacks alongside with box openings, all these different things, addiction is being played on right now more than ever. And I think that's showing why it's more prevalent now more than ever. And the scary thing with Fanatics, what they're doing is they're kind of leaning into the addiction side, but they are a business providing a service to consumers, so you can't be too mad at them. But I think they're not preying is the wrong word, but they're definitely not helping the addiction in the hobby.
Yeah, I thought leaning in was a good, better than preying.
Yeah, because I don't think they're like nicotine companies who literally put addictive chemicals in there, but they are not trying to have people want to change their product, so.
ATM, I really don't want to be reminded of my demons right now, please, okay?
Yeah, I would say addiction is definitely a really a real thing on different levels. Coming from the breaking side, I see it over in breaking a couple of times. Number one, somebody gets a bad team draw before any packs have even been opened. They're already complaining about their team, thinking they're just wasted their money. On the other side, occasionally I'll get an email from somebody who just had a really bad night, was in 3 or 4 breaks, and it's pretty frustrating. They're pretty frustrated, and they kind of direct some anger at me, and then that's usually accompanied with a follow-up email that's, hey, I'm sorry I took that out on you. Addiction in the hobby, yes, it's absolutely there. I think the more expensive packs and boxes that you open, the worse it feels to lose your ass on them without so I'd say it's definitely there.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Calling it what it is too. Like I think it's much more prevalent in the breaks and maybe a little bit the repack world. What does it look like? I mean, I think I once heard a really good definition of addiction. It's when it starts impacting your daily life outside of that activity, right? So I think that if you're, probably like with other things, I would say it can be time based. Like, oh, you're running away from your family to go open some pack. You know what? Some people might actually do that with box breaks and some of this online stuff we have now. But I would say mainly in our hobby, it's probably financially when you're really overextending yourself. Like, we've all paid 50 more bucks than we wanted on a card, or we thought we were going to spend 200 bucks at the card show, but you spent 300. I wouldn't say that's addiction, but I think when it's like, oh, there is unfortunately people in this hobby where it's like, oh, rent's due and I can't afford it because I've spent too much on cards. Like, that really happens, unfortunately. Do I think that that's a large section of the hobby? No, I personally don't. I mean, larger than there shouldn't be any, but I think it's part of the hobby. But also, I think any type of finance, whether it be video games or any of this other stuff, there's going to be people who get addicted and suffer a little bit financially. So it is here, unfortunately.
Give me a hell yeah.
On a lot of these topics, everyone does not agree, and you get a lot of different answers and contrasts and variations. But on this topic, it was an easy yes for everybody. There is some sort of addiction in sports cards, and you can easily make that case for McDonald's or for video games or many things you can get addicted to. However, being addicted in sports cards can really affect somebody financially if they really get addicted. I really like how Scotty B put it, how Fanatics is leaning into that side. And I would argue many of the bigger companies are leading into that side because they see a way to have a revolving door, a revolving customer base of gamblers, just like a casino would. It's not always the same person walking in and out of the casinos. There's people are doing it at different times of their lives, different stages, and this, and you constantly have a revolving door, and that's something that some of these companies are trying to lean into. Yep. Favorite sports moment. So what's your favorite? It doesn't have to be a favorite, but maybe one that you go back to, or just that holds a place in your heart.
My guy JML is laughing over there. I gotta think about this. I have a few. I think I'm gonna go with favorite sports moment of all time. I think I have two. I've always felt linked to Felix Hernandez because he's 2 days older than I am. So two come to mind. First one, I was out hanging out with friends at the river when he pitched his perfect game. Saw on my phone that he had a perfect through 5. I'm in the car in the 6th inning when he's still perfect. I get in front of a TV in the top of the 8th inning, watch his perfect game. It's one of my favorite Mariners moments. And then the other one, I was in attendance for his final game as a Mariner. The whole stadium's just lit up with Kings Court. The Kings Court used to just be on third baseline on the foul pole, and they extended it. Literally, the whole stadium is covered in yellow and blue. Just an incredible moment, and he didn't have the greatest game, but I specifically remember the game could have just got completely out of hand, and he would have given up like 6 or 8 earned. And Dylan Moore, who got cut this year, Dylan Moore just made this most insane grab in left field and just saved the game. And Felix, Felix did one of these, and just when Felix got pulled, just that moment, literally one of the only moments I was ever crying as a sports fan. I didn't cry when they lost Game 7 of the LCS, by the way. And then after the game, just all the tears. So I would say being there, being a part of that, that's a moment in time I'll never forget as a sports fan.
I think I might have mentioned before, but that Felix Hernandez perfect game also has significance to me because it was on my birthday.
Yep.
And not only that, I was hanging out with a good friend of mine who's a year younger than me, and it's his birthday too. It's one of my best friends. So we got to experience that perfect game together. That's cool. That was a fun day.
Yeah, I was I think I told you I was soaking wet. I got in my car and I was with 2 friends, and we literally went from being in the river up on a logging road to in front of a TV. We were 10 miles out of town. Like we were hauling ass on a 35-mile-an-hour road. We were doing like 55.
I want to give a big thanks to our guests, Chris Sewell, Scotty B, Trike, and Run Good Life. And have you been affected? In the comments, tell me, have you been affected by addiction in the hobby? Know anybody? Do you see addiction being real or not real in the hobby? Next week's question will be fads. What fad in sports cards that's around today? Well, it's just a fad. Or what in sports cards today is a fad? That'll be next Saturday. Hit the like button, subscribe if you have not. As always, thank you for watching and have a great day.